Hi, my name is Caitlin Bryce, and my PowerPoint is on how to create the perfect German chocolate cake. So a little bit of background I have is one of the things I mentioned in my paper was how the internet has a lot of recipes today, and you can easily go on the internet and find a recipe rather than looking through old family recipes or using a cookbook, which can be a good and a bad thing. I know I've used the internet like Pinterest for many different recipes, but at the same time it's always good to maybe stick to the recipes that are in your family. So that's why I wanted to talk about this recipe, because even if I found one online, I probably wouldn't use it. I'd probably stick to the recipe my grandma gave us. And so this recipe has been in my family for a really long time, and it's something that we always usually use for like birthdays and just family events. And it brings a lot of memories because my mom had my sisters and I make it with her when we were little, and even though we would make a huge mess and probably mess up the measurements and stuff, she just let us kind of do our own thing and create our own. While she would let us create ours and she would make another one for the actual party, but we would make one for our house. And so there's just a lot of memories that come with just cooking in general. And one of the different things from our recipe, the ones you might find online, is instead of using a coconut and pecan frosting, we use a cocoa frosting. And so it just makes the whole cake taste a little bit different. So the cake ingredients that you're going to need is a 1 package or 4 ounces of Baker's German sweet chocolate, half a cup of boiling water, 2 cups of sugar, 4 egg yolks, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2 1/4 cups of flour, 1 cup of butter or margarine, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of buttermilk, and 4 beaten egg whites. And you also need a glass bowl for that part. So for the cocoa frosting, you're going to need 2 cups of whipping cream, 1 cup of confectioner's sugar, half a cup of cocoa, powdered sugar, and a dash of salt. So for the cake directions, I'm just going to list them off and read them because there's a lot of them, so I'll just explain them thoroughly. So first you're going to get a measuring cup and fill it with half a cup of water, and pour the water into a pot and put it on the stove until high until the water starts to boil. Once the water's boiling, you can put the chocolate into the water and let the chocolate melt, but keep stirring it so the chocolate doesn't burn on the stove. And when the chocolate is melted all the way, take the pot off the burner and let it cool. While the chocolate is cooling, you can get 1 cup of butter and 2 cups of sugar and mix them together until they're fluffy. And then you can take out the 4 eggs and separate the yolks from the whites. And you can do this by just keeping the egg shells after you crack them. You can put the just put the yolk back and forth in between the 2 eggshells, and you can get the whites to fall out away from the yolks, and then you can keep them separate. And so once you have all the egg yolks, you can put them into the sugar and butter mixture and beat them until it's all blended in. Once that's blended in, you can take a teaspoon of vanilla and the melted chocolate and put that into the mixture. And then you can sift 2 1/4 cup of flour and baking soda into the mixture, and you can alternate that step with adding in the buttermilk. So you'll put in a little bit of baking soda and flour and then add in buttermilk and alternate that. And then once you're done with that step, you can go back to get the egg whites, and you can get the glass bowl and a mixer and mix the egg whites until they're stiff. And so for stiff, you need to do that as in when you pull the mixer out, the egg whites stand up instead of slouching over. So once they're stiff, you can add them into your mixture. And instead of pouring all the egg whites in at once, you need to fold the stiff egg whites into your batter, like a little bit at a time. So once that is fully mixed in, you can pour the mixture into 3 9-inch pans and preheat the oven to 350 degrees. When the oven is preheated, you can put the pans in for 30 to 35 minutes, and you can switch out the pans in so they can all bake evenly. And so for the frosting directions, this part's a little bit easier. You can add the 2 cups of whipping cream, 1 cup of confectioner's sugar, half a cup of cocoa, powdered sugar, and a dash of salt all into one mixing bowl. And the amount of powdered sugar used is really just based off your own taste and how sweet you want the frosting to be. So once you have all of those ingredients in the bowl, you can mix them together until they're blended. Just one tip, you just want to make sure you blend it well, but not too well that the mixture actually turns into more of a butter than a mix. So once you're all finished and the frosting is done and the cake is out of the oven and it's cooled, you can finally put the frosting on top of the cake. You want to make sure the cake is cool though before you put the frosting on, or else you'll just rip up the cake while you're putting the frosting on if it's too hot because it's a little bit spongy. So it's important that when you put the frosting on, you put a little layer on each top of the cakes individually so that they all stick together. And the one that you're going to put in the middle, you want to flip that over so the flat side is facing up. That way the cake will stick better together and will just make frosting it a lot easier, because it is a 3-layer cake, so it is going to be hard to frost it. It's going to be a little wobbly. So if you flip that middle one over, it will be easier. So I hope everyone enjoyed this PowerPoint and this recipe, and if you use it, I hope it brings a lot of good memories to your homes like it has to ours.